The New York Knicks have struggled to make it out of the second round for the past few seasons. However, this year, they find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals with a chance to go to the NBA Finals for the first time in 26 years. And the only one to stand in their way is Tyrese Halliburton. Now, heading into this series against the Indiana Pacers, do the New York Knicks have the best player, the best starting five, and home court advantage? Absolutely, but what they don't have is a lead in this series. And if they're going to fight any adversity that they end up facing against the Indiana Pacers, they're going to need to rely on their superstar, Jalen Brunson. Now, he's known as Captain Clutch for a reason, and that's because throughout Jalen Brunson's 7 seasons in the NBA, whether it be with the Dallas Mavericks or the New York Knicks, this man shows up in the biggest of moments, especially come playoff time, where he's able to transcend his game to a whole nother level. We can look at just this playoff run in particular. They don't make it past the Detroit Pistons in the first round with no Jalen Brunson. Game 1, he shows up and puts 34 points on the Pistons to lead the New York Knicks to an 11-point win, while also having 8 assists and 2 rebounds. He's shooting very efficiently in the playoffs so far this season, and that's what you can expect from Jalen Brunson. There was only one game in the 6 that they had against the Detroit Pistons where Jalen Brunson put up less than 30 points. The reason the New York Knicks got out to a 3-1 series lead over the Detroit Pistons is because the lowest amount of points Jalen Brunson scored in those first 4 games was 30 in Game 3, where he was absolutely clutch. Jalen Brunson would go on to score 12 out of his 30 points in the fourth quarter alone. And when it came to the Knicks in crunch time, in the last 5 minutes of the game, Jalen Brunson scored 10 out of the last 14 points for the New York Knicks to help them beat the Detroit Pistons and win that game by 2, sending them to Game 4, where again, Captain Clutch, the King of New York, Jalen Brunson, goes out and has himself a stat line that other superstars around the league could only dream of having in the playoffs, as he'd go on to score 32 points, had 11 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 50% from the field, and when the Knicks headed into the fourth quarter down by 7, Jalen Brunson went out and scored 15 in the fourth quarter alone, and that was a big reason as to why the Knicks walked away with a Game 4 win, where they won 94-93. Then comes Game 6, and of course, you know how that goes. It ends with the Knicks winning, and that's because Jalen Brunson put up 40 points. He's done just about any and everything that the Knicks have asked of him so far, and we'll talk more about Jalen Brunson's performances, not only in the playoffs against the Boston Celtics, but also in the regular season in a second. But for right now, I want to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription is greatly appreciated. We're on the road to 10,000, so please subscribe. But let's get back to this video and talking about the King of New York. Yes, Jalen Brunson, a short king demon. I know he's listed at 6'2", but he's not, let's be honest. I haven't seen someone of his stature ball out since maybe like an Isaiah Thomas for the Celtics back 10 years ago. But anyway, in the regular season, Jalen Brunson would end up playing 65 games, where he averaged 26 points, a little less than the years previous with the Knicks, but that's only because his role had been reduced now that he had another co-star on his team in Karl Anthony Towns, who we will mention later in this video. But he'd also go on to average 7.3 assists, had 2.9 rebounds, shot 48% from the field and 38% from the three-point line, and was an all-star for the second time in his career. Honestly, he was in MVP convos last season, and maybe he didn't deserve to be because of his stats, but if you were watching with solely the eye test, then yes, you would put Jalen Brunson in the top 10 in the NBA currently. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the New York Knicks had struggled to make it out of the second round for the past few seasons. It seemed as though the roster they had constructed had reached their ceiling. But the reason that the New York Knicks have found so much more success this go around is not only because Jalen Brunson continues to improve, but because the front office went out and made 2 blockbuster trades to really shake up the roster. The first one I want to talk about is the one getting Karl-Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves. In the process, they did have to give up one of the Villanova boys in Dante DiVincenzo, along with Julius Randle and a first-round pick. And while many had doubted the trade at the time, it seems as though Julius Randle and Karl-Anthony Towns being swapped is exactly what both sides needed. What Cat has really done for the New York Knicks is improve their offensive efficiency. He can score from inside and out. He is the self-proclaimed best big man shooter in the league. When you have a 7-footer who can knock down 3-point shots at a 42% rate while shooting 5 of them a game, you're going to take that. And his pick and pop game with Jalen Brunson has become highly efficient. It ranks second best in the league. And it also helps that Cat is just this massive player because he's improved the New York Knicks rebounding. He's bigger than when Julius Randle was, so it's easier for this team to get boards now, which is something you love to see. What Cat has done has not only improved this offensive efficiency, Cat is the reason that Jalen Brunson can stop and take a breath on offense every once in a while. He's getting far more open shots this season, and that's due to the fact that Cat is the team's second leading scorer. He also relieves a bit of that defensive pressure that Jalen Brunson was having to face every time the Knicks had the ball. Now the team can't solely focus their defensive game plan on just stopping Jalen Brunson because they also have Cat to worry about. But this wasn't the only big trade that the New York Knicks made, because before they went out and traded for Cat, they actually also traded for Mikal Bridges. Now, the players they were giving up this time weren't as important, but what was the fact that the New York Knicks gave up 5 future first-round picks and a pick swap and a second-round pick in order to acquire Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this one felt like highway robbery. It felt as though the Brooklyn Nets were making out as bandits because 5 first-round picks for a guy like Mikal Bridges is a whole hell of a lot. It made that Rudy Gobert trade to the Minnesota Timberwolves look pretty decent. However, Mikal Bridges, while Cat may be helping on the offensive end, Mikal Bridges is making up for the defensive slack that, Cat and Jalen Brunson may lack. Mikal is the perfect wing for this New York Knicks starting 5. He can often guard multiple positions and takes on the toughest perimeter assignment, along with his ability to be reliable and durable. I mean, for the past 4 seasons, Mikal Bridges has played in 82 or more games every single season. And hell, his rookie year, he also managed to play 82 games. So if you ever have a worry or are questioning who's going to be in the New York Knicks starting 5, I can guarantee you that Mikal Bridges will be there because he doesn't miss a game. 100%, 80%, 50%, it doesn't matter how healthy Mikal Bridges is, he is going to play. And all 3 of the guys that I've talked about, plus many more on the Knicks, are the reason why they find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals, along with the fact that they did perform very well against Boston Celtics, the reigning champions. Somebody had to take them out, and of course it is this New York Knickerbocker team. I mean, Jalen Brunson's performance in Game 1, that overtime win, was a must-win for this team. It really set the tone for the rest of the series. Jalen Brunson ended up having 29 points, had 5 assists, 4 rebounds, and each one of those stats were highly valuable because, like I said, the New York Knicks had to take it to OT where they won by 3 points. And then the rest of the series, Jalen Brunson does his Jalen Brunson thing. I mean, jump to Game 4 where the New York Knicks are leading 2-1 in the series. They need this to take a 3-1 series lead. This would probably be the most important win in New York Knicks history since the turn of the century. And can you guess what happens? The New York Knicks end up winning Game 4 because of Jalen Brunson. He had 39 points this game. He shot 14 for 25 from the field, had 12 assists and 5 rebounds. Jalen Brunson was goddamn near perfection. And after Game 5, the series was basically over because during the game, Jason Tatum would suffer a torn ACL. And while the Celtics did have a great roster surrounding him, it was a lot to ask from the other guys to go out and win the last 2 games of this series, let alone win a championship. So of course the Knicks end up walking away in 7 games bringing them to the Eastern Conference Finals, where in Game 1, Jalen Brunson puts up a 43-piece that nobody will remember because of how it ended, with the New York Knicks choking away the lead while it was on the tip of their tongues. They were about to walk out of Game 1 with a series lead that I don't believe they would have given up to the Indiana Pacers, but of course that isn't what happened. And to ask Jalen Brunson to do even more in Game 2 is a bit much, but I do think that if there's any player out there who can get it done, it is Jalen Brunson and this New York Knicks team. They have prevailed through the adversity that is the 2024-25 season for the New York Knicks. There is nothing that is going to stop them except maybe a few lucky Tyrese Halliburton shots. Who knows how this series plays out? I am really excited to either see the Knicks or the Pacers. I think this is a great outcome, not only for the Eastern Conference, but for the NBA. We are going to get a new champion no matter what, because on the other side, you have the Thunder and the Timberwolves, another team that I will talk about in the next video, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, that's about it for this video. I'll catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.